Hello, welcome to English After Midnight. I'm Alina, and tonight I'm going to tell you a story. Not a grammar lesson, not a vocabulary list. A story, a real one, about a woman who arrives alone in a city where she doesn't know anyone, doesn't know the streets, doesn't quite know herself yet. Her name is Sofia, and tonight you are going to follow her. I will tell the story slowly. At the end of each chapter, we will pause together, and I will give you the key words from that chapter, with examples, with context, with feeling. Then we continue. By the time the story ends, you will have absorbed 20 new words, and you will have lived, for a little while, inside someone else's English life. This is how language was always meant to be learned, not studied, lived. Make yourself comfortable. Let the story in. Chapter 1. Arrival. Sofia arrived at Edinburgh Airport on a Tuesday afternoon in October. She had one large suitcase, one small backpack, and a piece of paper with an address written on it in her own handwriting. She had checked the address 4 times on the plane. She checked it again now, standing in the arrivals hall, surrounded by people who were moving with certainty, who knew where they were going, who had people waiting for them, who had done this before. Sofia had not done this before. She was 26 years old. She had studied English for 9 years. She had passed her B2 exam with a score she was proud of, and standing here, in the actual country, surrounded by actual English being spoken at actual speed, she felt for the first time genuinely overwhelmed. Overwhelmed, that word. She had learned it from a textbook. Too much at once, more than you can manage. But the textbook had not told her how overwhelmed felt in your chest, how it pressed on you like too many coats. She found the bus stop. She found the right number. She paid with the new coins that didn't feel like money yet, too light, unfamiliar in her palm. She sat by the window and watched Edinburgh arrive around her. It was grey, beautifully, dramatically grey. The sky was the colour of old silver. The buildings were dark stone, old stone, centuries of rain in them. The streets were narrow and slightly crooked in a way that no street at home was. Everything was unfamiliar, not strange exactly, not frightening, just not yet known. A face before you learn the name. She pressed her forehead lightly against the cold glass of the bus window and watched the city go past. I am here, she thought, in English. She had started to think in English 3 weeks ago in preparation. I am here. I have arrived. The hardest part is over. She wasn't sure that was true, but she said it anyway. Vocabulary, Chapter 1. Overwhelmed. Feeling that too much is happening at once, more than you can comfortably manage. She felt overwhelmed by the size of the airport. Don't be overwhelmed, one step at a time. He was overwhelmed by how beautiful the city was, in a good way. Unfamiliar, not known to you yet, not strange or bad, simply not yet yours. The streets were unfamiliar but not frightening. She felt unfamiliar with the currency, the coins were different. Unfamiliar things become familiar, it just takes time. Certainty, the state of knowing something without doubt. Confidence in what will happen next. She watched the other passengers move with certainty. He spoke with certainty, every word deliberate. Certainty comes with experience. Give it time. Chapter 2. The Flat. The flat was on the 3rd floor of a stone building on a street called Marchmont Road. Sophia climbed the stairs slowly, suitcase bumping behind her. The hallway smelled of old wood and something cooking, something warm and savoury from behind a closed door on the second floor. She found the lockbox, found the key, opened the door. The flat was small, very small. One room with a bed, a table, a window, a kitchen the size of a large wardrobe, a bathroom where you had to turn sideways to get past the sink. It was nothing like the photographs online, which had suggested spaciousness through the clever use of a wide-angle lens. Sophia stood in the centre of the room and looked around. She had imagined this moment many times. In her imagination, arriving at the flat had felt triumphant. She had pictured herself standing at the window, looking out at the city, feeling the beginning of something enormous and beautiful. What she actually felt was very tired and very far from home. She sat on the edge of the bed. The duvet was thin. The pillow was flat. Outside, rain had begun, a quiet Edinburgh rain, barely more than mist, the kind that soaks you slowly without you noticing. She thought about calling her mother. She decided not to. If she heard her mother's voice right now, she would cry. And she had promised herself she would not cry until she had at least unpacked. She unpacked. She didn't cry. She put her books on the windowsill, 3 of them, the ones she always carried. She put her small lamp on the bedside table and turned it on. The room changed immediately. The amber light fell over the thin duvet and the flat pillow and the small table, and suddenly it looked not like home, but like a place that could become one. Could become, she thought. Not is, not yet, but could. She made tea in the tiny kitchen. She didn't have milk. She would get milk tomorrow. She stood at the window with her mug and watched the rain on the street below. A man walked past with a dog. 2 students ran past without umbrellas, laughing. A woman in a yellow coat waited at the bus stop with the composed patience of someone who had waited at this bus stop 1,000 times before. Sophia watched them all. This is my street now, she thought. These are my people now, even if they don't know it yet. Vocabulary, Chapter 2. Savoury. A taste or smell that is salty and rich rather than sweet. The smell of cooking food. Something savoury was cooking behind the closed door. She made something savoury and warm for dinner. The cafe smelled of coffee and savoury pastries. Triumphal/triumphant. Feeling or showing great pride and joy after a success or achievement. She had imagined the moment would feel triumphant. He finished the presentation and felt quietly triumphant. It wasn't triumphant, but it was real, and that was better. Composed, calm and in control, even in a difficult or pressured situation. The woman at the bus stop was completely composed. She managed to stay composed throughout the interview. He looked composed, but inside he was nervous. Mist. Very light rain, so fine you barely feel it, but it soaks you slowly. The rain was barely more than mist. A thin mist hung over the city at dawn. She walked through the mist without an umbrella. She didn't mind. Chapter 3. First morning. She woke before her alarm, 6:43. The room was dark, October dark, the kind that doesn't lift properly until 8. She lay still and listened to the city beginning. Footsteps on the pavement below. A door closing somewhere in the building. Pigeons on the roof. A bus. She got up, made coffee. She had bought coffee and milk the night before at the corner shop in a transaction that had lasted 30 seconds and required exactly 4 words, and sat at the small table by the window. She opened her notebook. At the top of a new page, she wrote, "Day 2, Edinburgh, still here." She smiled at that. Still here? As if staying were an achievement. But perhaps it was. Perhaps the first achievement of living somewhere new is simply not leaving. After coffee, she went out. The street in the morning was different from the street at night, calmer, quieter. A man was washing the window of a bookshop across the road. A woman walked past very quickly with a takeaway coffee and a focused expression. The expression of someone running slightly late but refusing to admit it. A cat sat in a first-floor window and watched the street with the detached authority of a creature that has lived here far longer than any human. Sophia walked. She had no particular destination. She had learned, from other people who had moved to other cities, that the best way to know a place was to walk it without purpose, to let it show itself. She walked down Marchmont Road to a park. The park was called the Meadows, a wide, flat, green space that opened up between the old stone buildings like a breath. There were people running, dog walkers, a group of students crossing from one side to the other, backpacks on, half awake. She walked through the meadows slowly. The grass was wet from last night's rain. The trees were October bare, most of the leaves gone, the branches showing against the silver sky like dark ink drawings. She thought, "This is beautiful. I am in a beautiful place." And then immediately after, "I wish I had someone to say that to." This was the strange thing about being alone in a new city. Not the logistics, the bus routes, the food shopping, the corner shops open until midnight. Those were fine. The strange thing was having thoughts with nowhere to go, having moments, this tree, this light, this mist on the grass, and no one beside you to receive them. She took a photograph on her phone. She sent it to her friend Marta at home with the caption, "Beautiful and lonely, how are you?" Then she put her phone in her pocket and kept walking. Vocabulary, Chapter 3. Detached, not emotionally involved. Calm and observational rather than engaged. The cat watched the street with detached authority. She tried to stay detached, not to get too emotional about it. He had a detached observational quality. He noticed everything. Destination, the place you are going to, the end point of a journey. She walked with no particular destination. The destination matters less than how you travel. What's your destination? I'm not sure yet. Logistics, the practical details of organizing something, the arrangements that make things work. The logistics of moving abroad are complicated. She handled all the logistics herself, flights, accommodation, paperwork. Once the logistics are sorted, the real experience begins. There, empty of covering. Trees in winter are bare, no leaves, just branches. The trees were bare against the October sky. The room was bare when she arrived. She had to make it hers. Something bare and honest about the way she spoke. Chapter 4. The Café. On the fourth day, Sophia found the café. It was on a side street she had walked past twice without noticing. The entrance was small, the sign was old, and the window was slightly fogged from the warmth inside. She only stopped because she smelled the coffee from the street, and the smell was exactly right. Inside, 8 tables, all mismatched, wooden chairs, a red velvet armchair in the corner, bookshelves along one wall, a long counter with a glass case of cakes and pastries. A woman behind the counter with grey-streaked hair pulled back loosely, reading a paperback with one hand and pressing the coffee machine lever with the other without looking. Sophia ordered a flat white and a piece of carrot cake. She took the red velvet armchair in the corner. She opened her book. She did not read it. She listened. At the table nearest the window, two older men discussing something about a film. She caught words. Remarkable. Extraordinary. Didn't expect that ending, the director clearly, and then lost the thread when they lowered their voices. Behind her, a young woman on a laptop, headphones around her neck, muttering quietly to herself as she typed, working on something, frustrated with it. At the counter, a man in a builder's jacket, plaster-dusted, heavy boots, ordering something complicated and laughing with the woman behind the counter in the easy way of people who have spoken to each other many times. Sophia sat in her velvet armchair and felt something she hadn't felt in 4 days. She felt comfortable, not at home, not confident, not like she belonged here, but comfortable, which was different and which was, for now, enough. She stayed for 2 hours. She read 3 chapters of her book. She had a second coffee. At some point, without planning to, without quite noticing when it began, she started listening to the English around her, not as a language exercise, but as a sound, a texture. The warm, ambient music of a place where people feel at ease. When she finally left, the woman behind the counter said, "See you tomorrow." Sophia stopped, turned. "Yes," she said, "you will." She meant it. Vocabulary, Chapter 4. Mismatched, not matching. A collection of things that are all different, not part of a set. The cafe had mismatched chairs, all different, all comfortable. She wore mismatched socks on purpose. There was something charming about the mismatched furniture. Ambient, surrounding you on all sides, the background quality of an environment. The English around her became ambient, like music. Ambient noise from the street came through the window. She found ambient cafe sounds helped her concentrate. Belong, to feel that you are in the right place, to fit naturally into a group or a space. She didn't belong yet, but she was beginning to. He felt like he belonged the moment he walked in. Belonging takes time, don't rush it. Thread, the connection between ideas in a conversation. To lose the thread means to stop following what's being said. She caught some words, then lost the thread. Keep the thread of the conversation, don't let it drop. He lost the thread halfway through and had to ask again. Chapter 5. Getting lost. On the 6th day, Sophia got lost. This was not a metaphor. She genuinely got lost on a Saturday afternoon in a part of the city she didn't know. She had taken a bus in what she thought was the right direction, and it wasn't, and by the time she realized, she was somewhere called Leith, standing at a junction she didn't recognize, with a phone battery at 11%. She did not panic. This surprised her. 3 weeks ago, if you had asked her to imagine being alone and lost in a foreign city with a dying phone, she would have described it as a nightmare. But standing at the junction in Leith, she felt not calm exactly, but curious. She looked around. The street was different here from Marchmont, wider, rougher at the edges. A covered market down one side, a pub on the corner with a handwritten specials board in the window. Seagulls. She hadn't expected seagulls inland, but Leith was near the water, she vaguely knew that. She charged her phone for 20 minutes in a coffee shop and ordered a tea she didn't particularly want as payment for the socket. The woman at the counter said, "You all right?" in the way that Scottish people say it, which is not quite a question, and not quite a greeting, but something warmly in between. "I'm a bit lost," Sofia said. "Where are you trying to get to?" "Marchmont." "Oh, you're miles away, love. Here." The woman came around the counter and showed her on Sofia's phone. A bus from 2 streets over, 22 minutes. "It's not complicated once you know." "Thank you." "Where are you from?" Sofia told her. "Oh, lovely. First time in Edinburgh?" "Yes." "Are you liking it?" Sofia thought about the thin duvet and the flat pillow and the grey stone and the mist. She thought about the park and the bare October trees. She thought about the velvet armchair and the woman who said, "See you tomorrow." She thought about standing at the window that first night with her mug of tea, watching the rain on the street below, telling herself that this place could become home. "Yes," she said, "I really am." And this time she was completely certain it was true. Vocabulary, Chapter 5. Junction, a point where 2 or more roads meet, an intersection. She stood at a junction she didn't recognize. "Turn left at the junction, you can't miss it." He reached a junction and wasn't sure which way to go. Vaguely, in a way that is not clear or precise. Slightly, but not fully. She vaguely knew that Leith was near the water. He vaguely remembered the conversation. She was vaguely aware that something had changed. Inland, away from the coast, not near the sea. She hadn't expected seagulls. Leith was near the water, not inland. They moved inland after years on the coast. Inland cities have a different rhythm from coastal ones. Certain, completely sure, without doubt. She was completely certain it was true. He said it with certainty, no hesitation. "I'm not certain yet, but I think so." Chapter 6. The Neighbour. She met her neighbour on a Wednesday evening, 3 weeks after arriving. His name was James. He lived on the 2nd floor, the floor with the savoury smell she had noticed on the first day. He was somewhere in his 50s, silver-haired, with the kind of face that looked like it smiled often and thought deeply. He was standing in the hallway with a pot of something when she came home, clearly having just knocked on the wrong door. "The people in 2B have moved out," he said, by way of explanation, turning when he heard her on the stairs. "I was bringing them this. Old habit. I cook too much. Do you cook?" "A little," Sofia said. "What kind of a little?" "Pasta, soup, things with eggs." "That's not a little, that's a repertoire," he smiled. "I'm James, 2nd floor." "Sofia, 3rd. "How long have you been here?" 3 weeks. "And how is it going?" She paused on the stairs, considering. "Better than I expected," she said. "Slower than I hoped." He nodded as if this were the most sensible thing he'd heard all week. "That's exactly how it goes," he said. "Here." He held out the pot. "Lentil soup. I'll put it outside your door. There's enough for 2 nights. She wanted to say, "You don't need to do that." She said, "Thank you." "Come down for tea sometime," he said. "No obligation, just if you want company." She went upstairs. She heated the soup. It was excellent, thick and spiced and warming in a way that had nothing to do with temperature and everything to do with the fact that someone had made it and thought to share it. She sat at her small table in the light of her amber lamp and ate every spoonful. Afterwards, she wrote in her notebook, "Day 22, Edinburgh. The city is becoming mine, slowly. There is a man on the 2nd floor who makes lentil soup and doesn't ask for anything in return. I think this is what people mean when they talk about a place feeling like home. Vocabulary, Chapter 6. Repertoire, the range of things someone can do or perform, originally about music or theatre, now used for skills, recipes, topics. Pasta, soup, eggs, that's a repertoire. She had a wide repertoire of conversation topics. He expanded his cooking repertoire one recipe at a time. Obligation, a duty or responsibility, something you must do. No obligation means you don't have to. Come down for tea, no obligation. She felt an obligation to help even when she was tired. There is no obligation, but the offer is genuine. Sensible, showing good judgment, practical and reasonable. His response was the most sensible thing she'd heard all week. She made the sensible choice, not the exciting one. Sensible doesn't mean boring, it means wise. Spiced, containing spices, having the warm, complex flavour of added seasoning. The soup was thick and spiced, deeply warming. She liked her coffee lightly spiced with cinnamon. A spiced warmth that went beyond temperature. Chapter 7. The city becomes hers. November arrived, the grey deepened, the days shortened until dark came at 4 in the afternoon, and the city lit itself up early. Warm windows against the cold dark, street lamps in the mist. The castle lit from below like something from a different century. Sophia had a routine now. She walked to the café on Marchmont Road every morning. The woman behind the counter, whose name was Fiona, she had learned, kept the velvet armchair clear until 10. She ate breakfast there. She worked there. She listened there. Her English was changing. She could feel it. Not dramatically, not all at once, but gradually, the way a muscle changes after weeks of quiet use. She caught idioms now that had once slipped past her. She followed conversations in the café without consciously translating. When James from the second floor came to her door one Saturday with too much soup again, she talked to him for 40 minutes and only noticed afterwards that she had not struggled once. That's different, she thought. She found a library. She found a bookshop, the one whose window the man had been washing the first morning, which sold second-hand books and had a cat who lived in the philosophy section. She bought 3 books and read them slowly in the velvet armchair, looking up when conversations floated past and finding that she understood them. She went back to the meadows. November trees were even more bare than October ones, more skeleton, less suggestion. But she liked them. There was something honest about a tree that had let everything go. One afternoon, walking through the meadows on the way home, she realized she was not thinking in her own language at all. She was thinking in English, not translating, not constructing, just thinking. The way you think when language is no longer a tool but simply the air inside your head. She stopped on the path. A man with a dog walked around her. She stood still. Oh, she thought, there it is. The thing she had come for. The thing she had not been sure would arrive. She walked home through the early dark, the street lamps on, the castle on the hill glowing above the rooftops, the city wet and grey and cold, and absolutely, completely hers. She climbed the stairs. She passed James's door, smelled garlic and something warm. She continued to the 3rd floor. She opened her door. She turned on the amber lamp. She stood at the window and looked at the street below, her street now unmistakably, and said aloud in English to no one and everyone, "I'm home." Vocabulary. Chapter 7. Gradually, slowly, over time, not all at once. Her English changed gradually and then suddenly it was different. Trust the gradual process. Gradually, the city became familiar. Idiom, an expression whose meaning cannot be guessed from the individual words, a phrase that native speakers use naturally. She caught idioms she had once missed. Every language has idioms. They are the heart of natural speech. Learning idioms is learning how people actually think. Consciously, with full awareness. Deliberately, intentionally, knowing what you are doing. She followed conversations without consciously translating. He consciously chose to slow down and listen. At first you do it consciously, then it becomes natural. Skeleton, the framework of bones inside a body, used here to describe bare winter trees, their branches visible like bones. The trees in November were more skeleton than tree. She could see the skeleton of the building through the scaffolding. A skeleton structure, everything stripped down to what holds it up. Unmistakably, in a way that cannot be mistaken for anything else. Clearly, definitively, the city was unmistakably hers. She spoke with an unmistakably confident tone. There was something unmistakably English about the way he said it. Final reflection. The story of Sofia is the story of every person who has ever arrived somewhere new with a language that was almost but not quite ready. The language was ready. Sofia just didn't know it yet. And this is the thing I want to leave you with tonight, the English inside you right now. The English you have been building for months or years, through lessons and listening and evenings like this one. It is not waiting for permission to arrive. It is already here, changing, deepening, growing in the dark the way all real things grow. You are Sofia, standing in the arrivals hall, overwhelmed and uncertain and extraordinary, and the city, the language, is already beginning to become yours. Let's hear the 20 words from tonight one final time. Just the words. Let them settle into you like snow. Overwhelmed, unfamiliar, certainty, savoury, triumphant, composed, missed, detached, destination, logistics, there, mismatched, ambient, belong, thread, junction, vaguely, inland, certain, repertoire, obligation, sensible, spiced, gradually, idiom, consciously, skeleton, unmistakably, again, slower, overwhelmed, unfamiliar, certainty, savoury, triumphant, composed, missed, detached, destination, logistics, there, mismatched, ambient, belong, thread, junction, vaguely, inland, certain, repertoire, obligation, sensible, spiced, gradually, idiom, consciously, skeleton, unmistakably, sleep now, let Sofia's story settle, let Edinburgh settle, let the English settle. I'm Alina from English After Midnight. Subscribe if this story found you at the right moment, and I will see you in the next one. Good night.